Welcome to Tripod, our travel retail themed video podcast series in association with the SEVA Group. I'm Martin Moodie.
I'm Roger Jackson.
Roger, we had such a good guest on the show last time. We had lots of positive reaction to that. So Tripod has really got a lovely momentum to it. And we've got a really interesting guest coming on today that I know you're very interested to talk to. But first, as always, let's just get a snapshot from you of what you think is standing out in the industry at the moment.
Well, I think from last week where we spoke about Dufry's great results, where we really saw, excluding Asia, a real near return to business. I was reading the Moodie Report only yesterday, and to see the news coming from Dubai Duty Free, who we all know is our largest single site retailer in total travel retailers. So definitely total travel retail, which is definitely another big barometer for us in our industry. Hearing that they're 12.5% down versus 2019 on their second quarter, which is the latest 12 weeks just gone. What a sign that those guys on total till are now near back to 2019. Now, I know we talk as 2019 as back to where we were, and I'm not sure where we were is still relevant, but I think it's the barometers in terms of, is our business getting back on track? And you've got to believe now with the Dufry news and the great news coming from Dubai Duty Free, from Column and Ramesh, you've got to believe that our industry is looking really, really good. Hearing the relaxation from yourself as well, from you arriving back in Hong Kong. I think everyone's been reading your blog and seeing your adventures, but even hearing that that's been relaxed even further now in Hong Kong is a great sign that hopefully we'll also have our Asia friends back in our industry in a big way.
Yeah, it's looking more and more promising, that's for sure. So good news here in Hong Kong, Roger. And the Dubai numbers that you spoke about, absolutely right, and quite an acceleration in that quarter that you mentioned. So I think first half is down about 20% on 2019, and when you get to a number like 12.5, that's real acceleration, isn't it? So good stuff.
The thing I will add, and I guess Ramesh would be very angry in Column if I didn't mention this, on quite still a relatively smaller passenger number base. We're talking below 70% on passengers. So when you look at it, to do that business on just over 2/3 of the old passenger numbers from 2019, it's absolutely unbelievable. And I think if we go back 18, 24 months when we were all looking at IATA's 2023 and 2024 forecasts, let's be honest, it's a couple of years ahead of where people were forecasting this as well. So big congratulations to the retailers we've mentioned, Dubai Duty Free, Dufry. I also read in the Moodie Report, Cyprus announced some really good numbers a few days ago as well. So I think we've got to say congratulations to all of those retailers that are absolutely working their socks off to get this business and our industry back up and running.
Yeah, and we get the icing on the cake, I hope, with the Chinese and next year. And I should probably close on that. Obviously, been difficult a couple of weeks, Roger, in Hainan. The long-time hotspot of the industry suddenly turned very, very cold. All the shops shut at one point. We are recording this on the 19th, Friday the 19th. I'm really pleased to say we broke the story exclusively this morning that the Haikou shops, that's in the capital city in the north, are open again, and I think this time they'll stay open. They've been opening again, but looks as though they've certainly got it under control. COVID, that is, in the north of the island. Sanya is a bit more of a problem, and of course that's the home to the biggest store of all, China Duty Free in Haitang Bay. But we are hoping that won't be too long before they're underway. So the authorities are making good progress, and fingers crossed it'll be resolved soon, because we certainly need Hainan back and bouncing as it was. Well, Roger, I mentioned earlier on we've got a guest that I believe you met quite recently in person. Today we'll meet him virtually. Shall we bring him in?
Yeah, let's do it.
So Tripod's special guest this week is Toby Witte, Director of Global Travel Retail. at one of the world's most famous drinks houses, Mast-Jägermeister, that rarest of breeds in the upper echelon of the drinks industry, a family-owned independent, and what an independent it is. Now, the company operates out of its offices and distillery in Wolfenbüttel, Germany. It's a place I had the pleasure, in fact, the privilege of visiting just before the pandemic, and it simply oozes history, a history synonymous with innovation, with marketing brilliance, and some risk. And of course, with the story of Jägermeister, a brand that by the end of 2019, just before you know what happened, became the 10th most popular international premium spirits brand in the travel retail channel, while its domestic market sales are simply astonishing. It's right up there among the top 10 brands in the world, along with all the heavyweight names you know. There's a saying, what's red hot but 18 degrees below? Sounds like one of those children's riddles, doesn't it? But it's not. It's a phrase that captures Jägermeister's extraordinary commercial success on the one hand, and the temperature, I believe, of its perfect serve on the other. And let me just close off by giving you some numbers. 383. That's the number of quality checks on the product. 56. That's the number of herbs, blossoms, roots, and fruits in a recipe known by a handful of people and guarded more closely than the keys to the United States Bullion Depository. 98. The number of 2CL Jägermeister shots consumed each second around the world. Fantastic. And one more number. Number one, a mono brand that has driven one of the great international brand success stories of the past 8 decades. Now, Toby stepped into his travel retail leadership role this February, having joined the company, I think 10 years ago in 2012. So it's an anniversary after spells with Bacardi and Brown-Forman. In 2019, he took on the managing director's role with German gin company Gin Sul, now fully owned by Mast-Jägermeister, before assuming his new and very exciting, I'm sure, travel retail role in early 2022. Toby, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Martin. That was a great intro.
Well, it's great to have you with us, and Roger's delighted. Roger walks and talks the drinks industry, of course. You're a very special guest to him, Toby, and thanks for being with us. Roger, over to you.
Toby, I think you've officially got the best introduction I've heard yet. It was like being at a boxing fight, but I think so. You're very lucky. I think you've got Martin's best intro yet.
And I must say, you know, I have presented those numbers myself a couple of times, but you know, every time I hear them, especially the shots per second that are consumed worldwide, it is still mind blowing.
Yeah, it really is a really truly amazing brand story. I guess like the Jägermeister brand, we always start off with all of our guests in the early days. So could you share a bit, Toby, about what it was like for you growing up? Those early days, education, and sort of key influences when you were growing up?
Sure, I would be happy to. I'm 43 now, living with my wife and our little daughter in Hamburg. And in Hamburg, Germany, I was born and raised as well, a little bit outside in a, let's say, very conservative household. Started, you know, my school days not with, you know, English or French as my first foreign language, but rather, you know, with Latin and Old Greek, which at that time wasn't the biggest fun. But you know, looking back at it, I think it was okay, I guess. Yeah, and you know, more or less a very, very, you know, comfortable situation, very protected. You know, being outside playing sports, and you know, then at some point, instead of, you know, studying for the piano lessons, rather created mixtapes for my friends, and you know, kind of got interested a bit in music, and you know, then you know, after my school time, I was already, you know, conducting some events and, you know, doing some DJ jobs to finance my living. And at some point, I guess my father called me and threatened to disinherit me if I don't go to university and do something proper with my life. So I, thought what I could do, and actually decided to go to university studying business, marketing, and law, which, was more, a generalistic university class in order to have the opportunity to look in different directions and to decide, what I enjoy and what I can strengthen. I had the opportunity already, as a small student to go to the US for an exchange year for the first time. I was playing baseball at the time, so that was the US influence, I guess. During my university, again, I had the opportunity to spend 2 semesters in California to study there. So there was always, already in early days, I guess, a link to curiosity and exploring the world. And then as a big football fan, I had the opportunity as my first job to do something not in the spirit industry, but to work for actually the FIFA when the World Cup came to Germany in 2006, which I probably just took the role to get a lot of tickets to see a lot of matches, which actually worked out at the end of the day. So that was good. It was, I guess, a more legal driven role with a decision of myself that I don't see myself in front of a desk for the rest of my life, just turning pages in a law book and reciting paragraphs. So at that time, a friend of mine worked at Bacardi, and after the World Cup, I actually wanted to travel the world and take a break, but he was saying, "Hey, there's a job offering here at Bacardi. It's a great company. And I think it would be a perfect fit for you." And I applied and I got the gig. And that's more or less then the start of, the steps in the spirits environment, with Bacardi, Brown-Forman finally leading me to Jägermeister, where I'm still today.
And tell us about some of those highlights, because I guess you've gone from Brown-Forman or Bacardi Brown-Forman, then obviously to Jägermeister, and then a few years with an independent company as well, with Gin Soul. Give us some highlights around that sort of journey of when you got into alcoholic drinks.
Well, I mean, being a young guy at Bacardi, being responsible for all the events that at that time, had a lot of budget, it was a dream job, more or less. But it was clear to me that obviously an experiential event manager is not sustainable for me. So I, stepped into the trade marketing role, where I quickly learned all the particularities about off-trade, and especially for on-trade, which is more or less, exceptional or not so present, at least in a lot of other industries. At that time, it was probably one of the most exciting steps. Was at the time I was responsible for the third-party brands, which was the Brown-Forman brands in Bacardi, because they had a joint venture. And at that time, Brown-Forman decided not to extend the distribution contract and set up their own entity in Germany. So I was lucky enough then to go over there from Bacardi to Brown-Forman. Started, I think, in Hamburg at the office when there were 7 domestic people, and a half year later it was already 70. So really, kind of being in the process of building this entity where, I didn't have yet so much expertise to bring in, but obviously a lot of insights to observe and a lot of learnings that I could take out of it, which were not in my initial role, but left and right. I think that was a very exciting time.
And I guess key influences and mentors. Anyone that you would say? I know you said a friend helped you get into Bacardi originally, but any sort of key influences and mentors along the way, whether it's in work or obviously before work as well?
I think at that time I wouldn't be able to name any one particular in those early days. I think there was there was my boss at before at FIFA was, you know, one that I looked up for because he was just so extremely smart and had just the wide perspective on all the other areas of life. I think that was more or less not an influence, but something I could look up for, which, you know, also, you know, gave me a lot of respect, obviously, then for him. And I think what I would say is that at the time when I went to Jägermeister, you know, it started that you know, I had people there, my boss at that time who didn't know me, and I didn't have any international experience yet, that gave me a lot of freedom and trust at that time. And he is still also with Jäger until today. And obviously, when I'm encountering difficult situation, he's still until today the first one I call just to get advice. And I think, you know, in terms of management style, to really trust in your team, be on eye level with your team, and give your team also freedom to try and also to fail, I think is something as a mentality that I learned with him, and I'll try to also adapt this to our team and to our style of working until today.
All right. And Toby, you came into your current role in travel retail at an interesting time. You know, we've been through this horrid period of gloom and darkness, in fact, that Roger and I have spoken about so often on these shows, but the world's looking a little brighter now. In fact, we would argue a lot brighter. And you came in as that transformation, I guess, was really starting to gather some momentum. How are you enjoying the job so far, first of all? And how do you see the state of the travel retail nation, as it were? Are you optimistic?
I'm generally optimistic, so I'm also optimistic on this one. No, but I think it could not have been a better time for me to start. For two reasons. One of the reasons is that more or less the really heavy times were behind us when I started in global travel retail. It you know, there was already light at the end of the tunnel, and my predecessor Dietmar, who you know, went in well-reserved retirement at that time, did an amazing job to already, you know, pick up the pieces and kind of put them together for me to already, you know, come into an environment where you know, the hard or the tough crisis management was already behind, and there was a clear direction and plan to go further. What I love about this situation, and you know, to say that after thunder there comes rain and eventually sun, it is, you know, our industry has been completely turned around and shattered by this crisis, which I see now as the biggest chance, because the business and the industry was going good. Therefore, a lot of things might not have been questioned. And now it is the time to exactly do this and to be innovative and to reinvent. And I think this is really, you know, the exciting time we're in at the moment, to not necessarily go back to all the old habits. Obviously, yes, you have to, because a lot of the old habits were right and are working great. But there's also the opportunity to challenge and to do stuff that maybe before pre-COVID was not yet possible. So it accelerated the need for innovation and the possibility to try out new things in our channel a bit, which I find as the greatest challenge at the moment.
Yeah, Toby, how are you seeing the business in terms of Jägermeister's growth in the channel? I've just been speaking to a number of retailers over the last couple of weeks, and also listening in on results from people like Dufry in particular, Lagardère, Heinemann recently, but Dubai Duty Free today, actually looking at their numbers, and they're very, very close now, almost to single digit drop vis-a-vis 2019, which I think is extremely good. That's for the last quarter. Are you seeing similar resurgence as travelers come back and as retailers really start to staff up and promote and, you know, start to live the good times again?
Yes, I do. I mean, when I started last year, I think the working thesis was that travel retail will take a bit longer to recover, and everybody was looking at a recovery more or less around 24, which in some line of business is still the case. But I think looking at the PAX numbers, even at European airports, that is almost at pre-COVID level now. It also reflects on our business, and we are, based on our initial plans, ahead of the plans. You know, not yet at the pre-COVID level fully, but close. And I'm still having the hopes that we will at the end of the year reach it. But I think that, you know, I'm carefully optimistic or cautiously optimistic, because what I see, especially here in Europe, is that airports are packed, airports are crowded, because people just want to enjoy and go out. But at the same time, you know, with all the other factors, doubling of gas prices, inflation rate, and especially flight ticket costs, we will see if households can afford a second holiday in the second half of the year. I just looked at, you know, a ticket from Hamburg to Mallorca, which was at 500 euros to fly with Ryanair without even a luggage, which is insane. And you know, not a lot of people can afford this. So this is why I say, you know, cautiously optimistic. We are on a good track, but we'll have to see on how the second half of the year really, you know, affects the pocket of consumers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Well, look, I'm sure you've been traveling quite a bit since you've been in the role, but maybe not yet as globally as you'd wish. Business travel is relatively early on in the bounce back, isn't it? So for those of the retailers out there around the world who haven't met you yet, Toby, and I'm sure they'll meet you at the trade show such as Cannes, just tell us a little bit about your business values. What drives you in business, and what do you think are the key principles for Toby Witte?
Well, that's I think you know, to I said it earlier, you know, generally be optimistic and positive, and positivity that is driving your daily routine is very, very important, because that will reflect on others automatically if you have that if you're living this, right? And on the other side, I think, especially being in global travel retail, and the name says it, it's a global role. You have the luxury of being able to travel and to meet different cultures and different people. I think it is very important to be curious and interested and open-minded. And I think that reflects to cultures and people, but also to consumers and the environment that we are in, to never, you know, be satisfied with what has been done and what were the status of the past, but always challenge this and to look ahead and to be curious of what is out there.
Yeah, I love that term, and I think in definitively international business like the one we're in, to be curious about places and about other cultures is a great thing. And curiosity leads to understanding, doesn't it? So yeah. Really, really nicely put. Well, Toby, we've kind of got through the serious bit. Now we're going to have a bit of fun. As you know,
I made it.
You did well. You did very well. Now, of course, we have a prime piece of real estate out in the middle of nowhere. It's a nirvana type place. It's the Tripod Desert Island. It does enjoy duty-free status, as you'd expect, of Roger and I, and we're about to take you there. So I'm going to hand over to Roger to offer you a few creature comforts to while away your time.
Thanks, Martin. So Toby, you're getting ready to come to the desert island. You're allowed to take one choice of music, so either an album or one track. And I know, given your background, this is going to be very difficult. But what would you bring?
I must say, just to choose one album, it's impossible. I would try to sneak through customs, maybe 3 or 4 albums that I glue together as one, right? So I would say, well, a classic is Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, in terms of production, sound, and just music. Then obviously I probably would try to sneak in one album of Prince or Michael Jackson. And definitely then Pearl Jam 10, which is one of the biggest alternative records, you know, from the early times of grunge.
Fantastic, good choices. And along with your music, you can also bring a book or any bit of reading, so poem, play, etc. What would you bring?
Yeah, I think. I would bring The Little Prince by Exupéry, because you know, we talked about being curious, and I think, you know, now my daughter is 2.5 years old. It is a book that, you know, it is so good to read as an adult over and over again, but I can also, you know, read it to my daughter and hope that she also takes something out of it at some time.
Fantastic. What a lovely book. And now probably the most difficult question. You're allowed to bring a duty-free item. Now, given where you work, I think you get to choose one of your own. And I think we should also get you to choose one that isn't a Jägermeister product. So what would it be and why?
I think I love tequila. So I would take a good bottle of Reposado tequila. To be able to just, you know, enjoy a couple of margaritas as the best sessionable drink throughout the day and night. And then I grew up in Germany, and you know, spend a lot of time in the nightlife. So it is always ice cold shot of Jaeger. Like if I do take a shot, it is Jägermeister ice cold shot, and I'll take a bottle of Jaeger as well.
How about that? There we go. I've even got one alongside me. How's that for product placement, Toby? You impressed?
Yeah, I'm impressed. That is a special label too. You got it.
Excellent. Well, that sounds good. Well, you've got your 2-bottle allowance, so we've granted you that. You have exceeded your music allowance, hasn't he, Roger? But so you've sneaked through customs successfully. So we're going to reward you now. You got some great music, you got some great alcohol, and you're relaxed because you've had some great reading. But we're going to arrange a special dinner now for you. And as always, we're going to allow you to invite 3 guests from history or living today. Who would they be and why?
That's again a tricky question. I think firstly, I would take care of the musical entertainment throughout the night, so it really you know, turns into a real party at the end of the night. So if I would have the chance to bring James Brown to either play with Prince or Michael Jackson, there's one YouTube video I think out there where he brought both of them on stage, you know, back in the days, and I think only 5 minutes are existing, and that jam session that they're doing is, I think, already historical. So I think, you know, we can make some history, create some new music, but of course have great entertainment throughout the night. And I would listen to it with Obama, I think, because, you know, during my time in the US, this was the time when Obama was president. I had a lot of discussions, pros and cons, you know, with my peers around his politics, about his vision. And I think he's just a great visionary and just a very charismatic and smart man that I would love to just chat.
Yeah, what a great lineup that would be. Things went rather downhill quickly after Obama, unfortunately, but we won't go there.
Yep.
I think so.
Nope. No, we don't have the time.
Okay. Well, finally for being such a good sport with us. Roger and I have invested very heavily, I might say, in a new airline. We've only got one plane at the moment, Roger, haven't we? But we might be at the Farnborough Air Show next year and grab another one. But we have this aircraft now, our own airline, and we're going to fly you anywhere, Toby, in the world as our thanks to you for being on the show and being a great guy. What would be prime in your bucket list and why?
Well, appreciate the free trip. Normally I would say Hawaii, but we talked about the flight ticket cost, so I'll be mindful about your T&E. So I would say I would take the family to Algesur in Portugal, at the West Algarve, because this is where we have also settled down. My wife has a business there. It's beautiful nature, Atlantic Ocean, surf, good food. No bling bling, straightforward, and just beautiful for surrounding.
Well, we'll get you there. Once you see the nature of our aircraft, you'll probably be happy we're not taking you all the way to Hawaii.
You might prefer that Ryanair to Mallorca with no luggage. So
no, Portugal is perfect then.
All right, very good. Toby, it's been lovely to chat. We've learned a lot about you. I know a lot about the brand, of course, and the company, having had the most amazing visit to Wolfenbüttel a few years ago, and the spirit of your company is just so great because it's full of fun, as well as being serious about being a very, very great brand right among the world's biggest. You do have a lot of fun as you do, and I think that's endemic in the nature of the product and where it's served. But lovely people always, and I enjoyed that experience. I can't wait to get back. But we wish you well in the channel. It's still early days. Great to see your business coming back and in line with the wider business. And I look forward to catching up with you in person at some time soon. I'll pass over to Roger for a final word.
Yeah, I think, Toby, first of all, it was great to meet you a couple of weeks ago in Dubai. So, and it's great to have you in travel retail. I think I was actually talking to one of our largest leaders in travel retail, retailer leader, and he referenced to me that Jägermeister was now in the top 10 products sold to Indians, which is just unbelievable. I remember we were struggling to sell malt whiskey to Indians 10 years ago. To think that your product would sell so well to India as a nationality and as a people is just the power of Jägermeister. I think you don't go anywhere in the world now without seeing your product behind a bar or in a retail store. And just big thank you for you giving us the time so early into your tenure of travel retail as well. We really appreciate it, and we hope to see you in Cannes as well. I'm sure you'll be there.
Yeah. Roger, I know also here in my part of the world, I'm talking to you from Hong Kong, as you know, and I was really surprised to find out that how popular Jägermeister is in China. Toby, it's going gangbusters, isn't it? And don't they have a special name for it?
Well, it was very, very, very good before COVID in China. Obviously, it's a difficult situation, as we know, but the global momentum of the brand that we have, whether it's in India or China, gives us a lot of potential. And I think this is also the exciting stuff and the challenge and the driver for us to continue to develop, and that's exciting. So, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate your time and you asking me, and I hope to see you in person in Cannes. And for everybody out there, Jägermeister will be throwing an event in Cannes on Tuesday the 4th. So watch out for your wristband and your invite to get a proper Cannes Jägermeister experience.
There you go. How's that burn off? Well, Toby, right alongside me, as you saw earlier, I've got, in fact, I've not got just one bottle. I've got all three expressions, but they're certainly not sitting here at 18 degrees below at the moment because it's about 35 degrees above here in Hong Kong. So I'm going to have to go and put that in the freezer. And then I'm going to have a shot tonight in your honor and in the honor of all your great colleagues and team back in Germany, but also all around the world. Toby Witte, thanks so much for being on Tripod. Well, Roger, I enjoyed that chat as I always do these conversations, and that's very much how we see it, isn't it? A conversation rather than an interview. Toby's an intelligent man. He's lived a life in that short career of his, that short life of his, actually. He's a spring chicken, as my mother used to say, alongside me. But he's an interesting man, an intelligent man, an insightful man, I found. What did you make of our chat?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I met Toby 2 weeks ago in Dubai. We obviously work with Jägermeister, they're one of our partners. And I found exactly what you said, intelligent, articulate. What I always like to see of anyone who works in the drinks industry, as you know, Martin, that's where I've done all of my career in drinks, is someone who started in the on-trade, in the on-premise. So, you know, bars, restaurants, etc., because that's where you really are closest to the consumer from a consumption perspective. And I think when you've got insights like that, you really understand about occasions and what really makes consumers want to buy a product and then obviously continue to consume it. And I think the great thing with Toby is he's absolutely got that in abundance. Got a great sense of humor, got some really good experience as well. And not only has he done it in the large companies, he mentioned Bacardi, Brown-Forman, you know, he's done it in a more of an entrepreneurial, smaller businesses as well. And now he finds himself as you said, a top 10 brand owner in the world of Jägermeister. And from everything I'm seeing, we spoke about consumption in India and you spoke about Asia. I think, you know, Jägermeister's heading for a top 6, top 7 position, which is unbelievable given the drinking occasion, which is, you know, Jägermeister essentially is a shot-based product. It's not a long drink necessarily. People don't drink it in that way. So he's a great guy. I think he's going to do real big things for Jägermeister. I'd really watch out for Jägermeister over the next couple of years. Yeah.
So travel retail remains in very, very good hands at Jägermeister, and that's nice to see because it's had such great management. The people running travel retail, I think, have been some of the great guys of our industry, and the personalities as well. We mentioned Dietmar, we miss him, and Hans, of course. Fabulous people, fabulous people. All right, Roger. Well, look, it's been great. To our viewers out there, thanks for watching. If any of you would like to be on Tripod or would like to recommend somebody, get in touch with Roger and I, and we'll be delighted to have you on the show. But until next time, this is Martin Moodie saying, see you next week.
See you next week.